War movies are everywhere, but here's the twist. Many of the most gripping classics aren't buried behind paywalls or dusty DVD collections. They're sitting right there on YouTube, free and legal to watch. Yes, free. But here's the kicker. These aren't second-rate throwaways. They're films packed with stars, daring stories, and more intensity than a modern blockbuster. So, which ones will transport you straight into the chaos and courage of history? Stick around, because the list might surprise you. Blood on the Sun, 1945. Picture James Cagney, not as the charming gangster you know from his 1930 seconds roles, but as a hard-charging newspaper editor determined to expose the truth about rising tensions in Asia. That's Blood on the Sun, a 1945 drama that won the Academy Award for Best Art Direction. And yes, you can stream it free on YouTube without breaking any laws. Cagney plays Nick Condon, an American journalist in Tokyo who stumbles across a secret plan for expansion that could change the world forever. The movie isn't just about headlines and smoky newsrooms. It's a whirlwind of chases, daring escapes, and heated showdowns, all set against beautifully designed sets that recreated Japan in meticulous detail on a Hollywood backlot. What makes it fascinating today is its timing. Released right at the end of World War II, the movie doubled as both entertainment and a message to audiences back home. It's propaganda, sure, but it's stylish propaganda, and Cagney's fiery presence keeps it magnetic. He throws himself into every scene, fists flying, eyes blazing, proving he wasn't just born to play gangsters, he could anchor a full-scale international thriller. The movie also has a unique legacy in film history. Because it slipped into the public domain, Blood on the Sun has been preserved, remastered, and uploaded legally across YouTube, making it accessible for anyone who loves golden-era Hollywood. Watching it today is like uncovering a time capsule, one that's loud, pulpy, and unapologetically dramatic. For fans of Cagney or anyone curious about how wartime cinema mixed politics with pulse-pounding drama, this one is a must-click. 49th Parallel 1941. Now, let's talk about a film that blends nail-biting suspense with a surprising amount of cultural depth. 49th Parallel isn't just another war story. It's a Canadian-British production that dared to ask what would happen if war suddenly landed in your backyard. Directed by Michael Powell, one half of the legendary Powell and Pressburger duo, the movie follows a group of stranded enemy sailors trying to slip through Canada to reach neutral America. Here's what makes it wild. The villains are front and center for most of the movie. We're not following the heroes chasing them. Instead, we watch these fugitives creep across the Canadian landscape, hiding in small towns, infiltrating communities, and spreading their twisted ideology along the way. It's unsettling, but also brilliant, because it forces audiences to see the threat up close. And the cast? It's stacked. Laurence Olivier gives a flamboyant turn as a French-Canadian trapper, all thick accent and bravado, while Anton Walbrook delivers a powerhouse performance as a refugee who challenges the intruder's beliefs. The movie also features Glynis Johns and Leslie Howard, adding layers of humanity to the story. At the time, 49th Parallel was more than entertainment. It was a recruitment tool. The Canadian government helped finance it, hoping it would rally citizens to the cause. Yet, it's far from dry propaganda. Powell and Pressburger infused it with their signature visual flair and sharp dialogue, creating a thriller that feels surprisingly modern. Watching it today on YouTube feels like discovering an underrated gem. It's part chase movie, part cultural snapshot, and part morality play, all wrapped in sweeping Canadian landscapes. And let's be honest, there's something incredibly refreshing about seeing a war film set outside the usual European battlefields. If you think all wartime stories feel the same, this one proves otherwise. Canal Zone 1942. Ever wonder what happens when hotshot flyers clash with authority during wartime training? Canal Zone gives you that story, dripping with swagger and tension. Released in 1942, right as America had thrown itself into World War II, this B-picture was designed to thrill audiences and boost morale, but it's got a charm that goes way beyond its modest budget. The setup is classic. A group of misfit pilots are stationed in the Panama Canal Zone, a location as strategically important as it was exotic to American audiences at the time. Into this mix comes a reckless flyer who doesn't care much for rules but soon finds himself tested in ways he never expected. What unfolds is a story about responsibility, courage, and the fine line between cocky confidence and true leadership. While Canal Zone never had the prestige of big studio productions, its fast pace and scrappy energy keep it engaging. The flying sequences are surprisingly well done, considering the limitations of the era, and the film makes clever use of stock footage and staged aerial maneuvers. For audiences in 1942, seeing those planes roar across the screen wasn't just exciting, it was reassurance that America had the skill and guts to defend vital ground. Today, the movie plays like a time capsule of both patriotism and old-school Hollywood efficiency. It's not polished like Casablanca, but it wasn't trying to be. It was aimed at everyday audiences who wanted an adventure that mirrored the headlines they read every morning. The fact that it survives in the public domain and is free to watch on YouTube means we can experience exactly what wartime crowds saw for a dime at their local theater. If you're curious about how Hollywood used even its smaller films to shape attitudes and entertain in the middle of global conflict, Canal Zone is a surprisingly fun ride. Lady from Chungking, 1942. Here's a rarity, a wartime story where the hero isn't a soldier, but a woman leading a resistance movement. Lady from Chungking tells the story of a Chinese partisan, played by the luminous Anna May Wong, who fights back against occupying forces with determination and quiet fire. Released in 1942, it was one of the few Hollywood films of its time to cast an Asian actress as the central figure in a war narrative. Anna May Wong had long battled typecasting in Hollywood, often sidelined into secondary roles, but here she commands the screen. Her character, Quan Mei, organizes her community to sabotage the invaders and protect captured airmen. The movie blends espionage, underground resistance, and old-fashioned melodrama, but its real draw is Wong's performance. She radiates both strength and vulnerability, proving that resilience can be just as compelling as brute force. What makes Lady from Chungking even more fascinating is its political edge. At the time, Hollywood was eager to highlight China as an ally, and the film served as propaganda to rally American sympathy for the Chinese struggle. But instead of being purely a government mouthpiece, the movie carved out space for genuine drama, giving Anna May Wong one of her most significant roles during a career that had often kept her on the margins. The production itself was modest, shot quickly and without big studio gloss. Yet its grit works in its favor. Watching it today, you can feel both the urgency of the message and the weight of representation. The fact that this piece of cinema history is free and legal on YouTube makes it doubly important. It's not just a war story, but also a snapshot of Hollywood wrestling with race, representation, and global alliances. For film buffs, it's a hidden treasure that deserves far more attention. Blackout Mission 1941. If you love spy thrillers, this one will grab you right away. Blackout Mission, sometimes simply referred to under alternate titles in the public domain catalogs, is a war-era adventure that throws audiences into the shadowy world of espionage, coded messages, and double identities. Released in 1941, before America formally entered World War II, it reflects the anxious mood of the time, when uncertainty hung in the air and every stranger seemed like they could be hiding a secret. The story follows an ordinary man who stumbles into extraordinary circumstances, pulled into a dangerous mission that pits him against shadowy agents working under the cover of darkness. While the film doesn't have the star power of a James Cagney or Laurence Olivier, it thrives on atmosphere. Narrow streets, dimly lit safe houses, and sudden bursts of tension keep the narrative taut. It's noir mixed with wartime anxiety, and it works surprisingly well. What makes Blackout Mission notable is how it mirrors the fear and suspense people felt in real life as global conflict escalated. In 1941, Americans weren't yet on the battlefield, but they knew something big was brewing. Movies like this gave them a taste of the stakes, dramatizing the idea that vigilance and courage could be found in the most unexpected places. Today, watching Blackout Mission on YouTube feels like rediscovering a lost chapter of cinematic history. It's not polished, but it's moody, quick, and filled with the kind of pulp energy that defined early wartime cinema. You might even find yourself more wrapped up in its shadow games than in a polished modern thriller. And that's the magic. Sometimes, raw edges make a story feel more authentic. Gung-Ho, 1943. If you want a war film that charges full speed ahead with no hesitation, Gung-Ho delivers exactly that. Released in 1943, this action-packed drama tells the story of the famed Carlson's Raiders, a real U.S. Marine battalion that carried out a daring raid on a Japanese-held island during World War II. And the best part? You can watch the whole thing free and legal on YouTube. The film follows Randolph Scott as Marine Colonel Thorwald, a character modeled after Lieutenant Colonel Evans Carlson. He handpicks a group of tough-as-nails recruits from all walks of life, farmers, steelworkers, street fighters, and forges them into an elite strike force. The training sequences are rugged, filled with sweat, shouting, and camaraderie, building to the nail-biting assault that takes up the back half of the movie. What makes Gung-Ho stand out is its balance between propaganda and pulse-pounding action. Yes, it was made to boost morale and show the home front how tough the Marines were, but it also works as a straight-up adventure film. The island raid sequence is staged with impressive scale for a 1,940 seconds production, featuring explosions, hand-to-hand struggles, and a sense of chaotic energy that still feels gripping. For audiences in 1943, the title said it all. Gung-Ho was a phrase meaning, work together, and the film hammered home the value of unity and determination. Watching it now, it's not just a piece of war cinema. It's also a cultural snapshot of how America wanted to see itself in the middle of global conflict, scrappy, brave, and unstoppable. Because Gung-Ho is in the public domain. Multiple copies circulate on YouTube, some even remastered to look surprisingly sharp. It's one of those movies that might not get talked about as much as Casablanca or The Great Escape, but once you hit play, you'll understand why it became a wartime favorite. If you're looking for a free film that delivers old-school action with a patriotic punch, Gung-Ho is the one to watch. The True Glory, 1945. Now, let's shift gears to a film that shows victory not as a slogan, but as a grueling step-by-step journey. The True Glory is a British-American documentary co-directed by none other than Carol Reed, who later made The Third Man. Released in 1945, it chronicles the Allied push from D-Day all the way to the collapse of the Third Reich, and the way it does it still feels groundbreaking. Unlike typical propaganda films that focused on generals or politicians, The True Glory told the story through the eyes of ordinary people. You hear from soldiers, nurses, resistance fighters, even civilians caught in the storm. Each perspective adds a layer, making the victory feel less like a parade and more like a hard-earned mosaic of sacrifice. Visually, the film is stunning. It blends battlefield footage, behind the lines, glimpses, and carefully chosen narration to create an almost epic sweep. Yet, it never loses its human core. You see the fatigue on faces, the destruction of cities, the quiet resilience in small moments. It's not romanticized, it's raw, but uplifting. What's even more impressive is its legacy. The film won the Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature, and it remains one of the most respected accounts of the final European campaign. And because it slipped into the public domain, it's now freely available on YouTube, giving us access to a genuine piece of cinematic and historical treasure. Watching The True Glory today is both humbling and inspiring. It's proof that victory wasn't just a headline, it was lived, suffered, and earned by millions. If you want a war film that leaves you with both chills and respect, this one is non-negotiable viewing. The Big Lift 1950. When you think of war movies, you probably picture battles and trenches. But The Big Lift takes you somewhere different. Post-war Berlin, right in the middle of the 1948-49 Berlin airlift. Released in 1950, this film stars Montgomery Clift as an American Air Force sergeant helping fly supplies into the city while it's cut off from the West. The best part? You can stream it free and legal on YouTube today. Unlike the propaganda-heavy films of the early 1940 seconds, The Big Lift has a semi-documentary feel. It was actually shot on location in Berlin, which means you're seeing the real rubble, the real airfields, and the real divided city just a few years after the war ended. That authenticity gives it a weight and atmosphere that studio backlots could never replicate. The story blends duty with personal drama. Clift's character falls for a German woman, which stirs tension with both locals and fellow servicemen. The romance isn't just a side plot, it's woven into the larger theme of reconciliation and mistrust in a city still scarred by conflict. Paul Douglas co-stars as a cynical sergeant, offering a grittier, more world-weary counterpoint to Cliff's idealism. For audiences in 1950, the film offered a rare look behind the headlines. The Berlin airlift had been one of the defining moments of early Cold War history, and here it was, dramatized with Hollywood talent and the raw backdrop of a recovering city. For viewers today, it's both a time capsule and a gripping drama, with the added thrill of seeing Montgomery Clift in one of his early major roles. Because it slipped into the public domain, The Big Lift survives in full on YouTube, making it one of the most accessible post-war dramas out there. If you want a war-related film that feels immediate, authentic, and rooted in real events rather than staged battle scenes, this is the one to queue up. The Steel Helmet 1951. Sometimes, a war film doesn't need sweeping battles to hit hard, it just needs raw honesty. The Steel Helmet, released in 1951, is often called one of the greatest Korean War movies ever made, and it was directed by Samuel Fuller, a filmmaker who actually fought in World War II. That real-life experience bleeds into every frame, making the movie feel more grounded and authentic than most big-budget productions of its era. The story follows a hardened GI nicknamed Zach, played by Gene Evans, who survives an ambush and joins up with a ragtag group of soldiers trying to hold a Buddhist temple against enemy attacks. What unfolds is part combat story, part character study. The men clash, bond, and confront their own prejudices while under fire, creating a tense, layered drama that feels years ahead of its time. What makes The Steel Helmet remarkable is how unvarnished it islanded. This wasn't a flag-waving piece of propaganda. It was gritty, cynical, and openly questioned racism and hypocrisy within the military itself. Audiences weren't used to seeing that in 1951, and it caused a stir. But for modern viewers, it feels refreshingly bold, the kind of film that doesn't sugarcoat war or the people caught in it. The film also deserves credit for its efficiency. Fuller shot it in just 10 days on a shoestring budget, yet it looks and feels bigger thanks to clever staging and sharp writing. It's proof that passion and lived experience can sometimes outshine spectacle. Today, it's available free and legal on YouTube, making it an essential watch for anyone who wants war cinema with grit, brains, and bite. Go for Broke, 1951. If you're looking for a war movie that delivers both heart and heroism, Go for Broke. Is it? Released in 1951, it tells the story of the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, an all-Japanese-American unit that became one of the most decorated in U.S. military history. And yes, you can watch it free and legal on YouTube right now. The film stars Van Johnson as a young officer initially skeptical about leading a unit of Japanese-American soldiers. At first, he buys into the prejudices of the time, questioning their loyalty. But as the story unfolds through battles in Europe, he comes to respect their courage, resilience, and extraordinary sacrifice. It's both a war drama and a story of overcoming bias, something that feels surprisingly progressive for 1951. One of the film's greatest strengths is authenticity. Many of the actors were actual veterans of the 442nd, bringing first-hand experience to their roles. That realism shines through in the battle scenes and the camaraderie between the men. While Hollywood could often feel staged in its war dramas, Go for Broke has a lived-in quality that gives it extra emotional weight. For audiences of the early 1952s, the film served as both tribute and recognition of a unit that had often been overlooked because of prejudice during the war. For viewers today, it's both an engaging drama and a meaningful reminder of resilience and unity in the face of doubt. Because it's in the public domain, the film is widely available on YouTube in multiple uploads. It stands as both a piece of history and a genuinely well-made war film that deserves far more attention. If you want a war story that combines action with heart, Go for Broke is a perfect choice. The General 1926. Yes, you read that right. A silent comedy starring Buster Keaton just made this list of war films. And if you think that sounds odd, wait until you watch it. The General, released in 1926, is often hailed as one of the greatest silent films ever made, and it's set during the American Civil War. The twist? It's as much about daring stunts and jaw-dropping visuals as it is about historical conflict. Keaton plays Johnny Gray, a train engineer who loves two things: his locomotive and his sweetheart. When both are taken by Union forces, he launches into a relentless pursuit that turns into one of the most ambitious chase sequences ever put on film. Trains collide, bridges burn, and Keaton, famous for doing his own stunts, throws himself into physical comedy that feels dangerous even by today's standards. But here's what's brilliant. Behind the laughs and the pratfalls, The General is also a sharp look at obsession, loyalty, and determination. It's a war movie told through comedy, but one that never skimps on spectacle. The train chases are massive, staged with real locomotives, not miniatures, making it one of the most expensive films of the silent era. For decades, The General wasn't fully appreciated. Critics in the 1,920 seconds didn't quite know what to make of it, and it underperformed financially. But history has been kind. Today, it's ranked among the greatest films ever made, often cited in the same breath as Citizen Kane. And because it's in the public domain, you can watch it free and legally on YouTube. For anyone who thinks silent films are dull or outdated, The General is the ultimate rebuttal. It's fast, funny, thrilling, and oddly moving. More than that, it proves that war films don't have to be grim. They can be inventive, daring, and even laugh-out-loud funny. Corregidor 1943. If you want a war movie that captures both the chaos of combat and the grit of human endurance, Corregidor is a hidden gem you can stream free on YouTube. Released in 1943, right in the middle of World War II, the film dramatizes the desperate defense of the Philippines as American and Filipino forces tried to hold out against overwhelming odds. The movie opens with American nurses, doctors, and soldiers retreating to the island fortress of Corregidor after the fall of Manila. What follows is a tense mix of battlefield drama and personal stories. It doesn't shy away from showing the exhaustion, fear, and stubborn courage of those trapped underground while bombardments raged above. The film blends romance and sacrifice with scenes of determination that reflect both Hollywood storytelling and the reality of wartime headlines. While Corregidor was clearly propaganda meant to stir patriotism, it works today as a fascinating snapshot of how Hollywood processed ongoing events. Imagine being in a theater in 1943, watching actors recreate battles that were still happening in real life. It must have been surreal, and for audiences, cathartic. What gives the film an edge now is its mood. This isn't just flag-waving spectacle. There's a shadow of despair woven through the narrative, acknowledging that not every story has a triumphant ending. Characters face loss, doubt, and the haunting question of whether help will arrive in time. That emotional weight sets it apart from more glossy productions of the era. Because Corregidor has slipped into the public domain, it's legally available to stream on YouTube. Watching it today isn't just about the story. It's about feeling the immediacy of a world still deep in the struggle. It's a reminder that classic war cinema wasn't always about clean victories. Sometimes it was about endurance and the human spirit refusing to break. So, there you have it. 12 classic war films you can watch right now, free and legal on YouTube. From Cagney's fiery fists to Keaton's runaway trains, from sobering documentaries to propaganda time capsules, each one tells a piece of history in its own way. The real question is, will you binge them all in one weekend or save them like rations for a rainy day? Either way, hit that like, drop a comment with your favorite discovery, and subscribe for more cinematic deep dives. History is waiting, and the play button is free.